Hey, Husker fans, welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson, and with me, as always, is my co host, Danny Gillette. And we're here on this Monday morning after another tough weekend for the Cornhuskers on Saturday. Thankfully, Danny lives in Massachusetts, had some power outages, and didn't have to watch much of it. That's kind of unfortunate for him. Glad you got your power back going. But
I am.
the Huskers never got their power. They looked like they had a power outage all weekend. It was brutal. So that's why we weren't here on the Saturday chat. Danny was having some power issues here, but
Yeah.
we're back. And how are you feeling on this Monday morning, Danny?
I'm feeling like I'm glad I had a power outage so I didn't watch the game. I would have been very upset and it doesn't sound so good. Sounds like, the power outage offensively continued from the opener against Minnesota. And where do we go from here?
That's that's kind of a good question. Where does Nebraska go from here? Because I don't think that this game went the way that many people expected. I don't know that. I picked Nebraska to lose by 1 or 2 points. I thought it would be close. I thought it would be a great game, and for 30 minutes, it was until Jeff Sims just totally fell apart, and that's been the storyline of this season right now. If
Hmm.
Nebraska I wrote about this on Sunday, and maybe, because people have been talking about the Casey Thompson thing, maybe they would be 2-0 with Casey Thompson. He didn't play that well this week, had two interceptions, no touchdowns. So, it's not like Casey Thompson's a, world beater, but you look at Jeff Sims, 6 turnovers through his first 6 quarters of play. He had, in the Minnesota game, and here's where I think it really boils down to it. Nebraska in the Minnesota game, they had 2 drives inside the 10, 2 goal to go situations, got 3 points. And Jeff Sims had a terrible turnover in that situation. In the Colorado game, Nebraska had, in the first half, 2 or 3 chances inside the 30, and they came away with nothing because the first drive, go right down the field. Billy Kemp, catches about a 20, 30 yarder, get inside the 30. Jeff Sims drops the snap, turn the ball over. Get inside the 30 again and have the motion issue. And they, fumble the ball. And luckily they fell on it. But then Tristan Ovano misses the field. So basically, you have, 4 drives inside the 30 so far this year for Nebraska. You've got 3 points. And I'm sorry, but a lot of that is on the quarterback. And Jeff Sims is the biggest problem with this team right now. There's no question about it.
And I also think Marcus Satterfeld, although he's not the biggest problem on this team, there's got to be some questions as to why they look so out of sync offensively. There were criticisms about his play calling at South Carolina. And those were definitely a storyline when Nebraska hired him. So, it is a lot on Jeff Sims. He's the quarterback. Definitely no argument there, 100%. But I'm wondering if Satterfeld and the offensive penalties and consistency issues fall on him a little bit as well.
Yeah, it wasn't, to me it's hard to, even I think he could do a better job, but I mean Jeff Sims was so bad that it's hard to blame for me, it's hard to blame the play calling when the quarterback can't catch a snap. I mean, the first drive was going, I mean, they went bing bang boom in there, it was they were facing a third down or whatever. It was third and short. And it was a perfect snap. Hit him right in the hands and dropped it. To me, right there, that shows that this stage is too big for Jeff Sims. He should have never left Georgia Tech. I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know what Matt Rule was thinking. And Matt Rule sold us all offseason that Jeff Sims, we're going to get the turnovers down. He's going to be great. He told Casey Thompson to transfer. That's according to Casey Thompson's dad. What he told us, Hail Varsity Radio, that he said, if I was you, I would transfer. That's what he told Casey Thompson this spring, and it turns out that was probably not the wisest decision or the wisest thing to say. Maybe it was the best for Casey Thompson, but looking back, it's hard to see what Matt Rule saw in Jeff Sims. And it's not like Jeff Sims. Before he came to Nebraska, he had 23 career interceptions. These guys obviously thought they could coach the turnovers out of him, but it's only gotten worse. And I don't see how it's going to get better. I honestly just don't know.
Well, I honestly think with how much they run Sims, I don't know if Casey would have been a better option in that regard. But they're running Sims because he can't really pass the football and he's turnover prone. So he's basically like a big Derrick Henry type running back under center. And yeah, I'm not really sure where Nebraska goes from here. We were talking, you know, d- you know, we were talking earlier, meaning like a couple of months ago. Does Daniel Kingland come in and sit for a year behind Jeff Sims in 2024? Well, I I wouldn't really be. I don't like starting a freshman quarterback, but it looks like either they're going to have to get one out of the transfer portal, or maybe if they want to win, ride with Danny or do something, because Jeff Sims is just not the answer right now.
Jeff Sims can't be the starting quarterback next year. I don't care. You need to get a transfer. You need to go to the transfer portal and get a dude. Like, and Matt Rule, I'm sorry, but it's hard to have confidence in a coach. Like you're like getting a quarterback, like that's your first big decision, and you totally botched that. And so it just right now, all my confidence in Matt Rule is gone. Like I'm not saying that he's not going to be successful, or I think he's done a lot. He's done some nice things, but I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, it's important for people to know the janitor's name, but you got to win football games. And through 2 games, this team looks exactly like it did under Scott Frost. I mean, yes, the defense is better. I know, but it's like they still gave up 36 points. I mean, Shadur Sanders threw for almost 300 yards, or for almost 400 yards. And I know the defense wore down in the second half, but I mean, it was a 13-7 game and they couldn't get off the field on third down. So, I mean, after halftime, I mean, you can say what you want. Yeah, the offense didn't do him any favors and kept him out there for a long time, but it was a 13-7 game, and they gave up a 50-yard bomb to Travis Hunter on third down because, we have Isaac Gifford covering Travis Hunter for some reason. I mean, at the end of the day, like it's just frustrating. I do think that the defense has improved, but let's not act like these guys were dominating. I mean, once Shadur Sanders kind of figured things out, he was unstoppable in the second half, and you can put that on fatigue and whatever, but I mean, there's not a lot of positives to take out of this game, and through 2 games of the Matt Rule era, I mean, it looks like the same shit on repeat. I mean, it's the same stuff we said last week.
Yeah, and I do think that Travis Hunter and Shitter Sanders are really good football players, but at the same time, it just seems like a repeat of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Decent
Yep.
defense, terrible offense or inconsistent offense, and you know you're relying on a running quarterback who has trouble with accuracy issues and turnover problems to bail you out. It's not a winning formula, and it could make for a long rest of the season because I don't really. Through 2 games now, we're seeing the same stuff pop up over and over again at quarterback, and that's an issue.
Well, it's just the other thing too is, it's easy to have hindsight or whatever, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, I'm not paid $9 million to put out a winning program. That's Matt Rule. Okay, he's paid $9 million this year to win. So don't give me this rebuilding bullshit. I'm so freaking tired of that. I don't want to hear about how this program had to be rebuilt, how the talent wasn't there. Michigan State didn't have to rebuild 2 years ago. TCU didn't have to rebuild. Colorado was the worst FBS program in the country. They won 1 game last year and they're in the top 20. And I get, yeah, that wouldn't necessarily happen here, but I don't want to hear this crap about how it's going to take Matt Rule all this time. No. College football, you have the resources to win now, and you picked the wrong quarterback. And to me, and the offensive coordinator doesn't look great either. And frankly, right now, I don't see. I hope I'm wrong about this, but it's going down the same path as the last 2 head coaches, honestly. And I 100% hope that I'm wrong on that, but I just don't buy this idea that, oh, we have to give Matt Rule time and all this crap. That's flat out crap. Matt Rule chose the wrong quarterback, and this program is suffering for it. And frankly, he's making almost $10 million. So I'm done with the excuses.
And not for nothing, and not to make light of the allegations, but Michigan State is no longer it does no longer have Mel Tucker as its head football coach, but that's here nor there. It's just more to illustrate the point that I think we had high expectations, and I still think it's fair to have the high expectations, but I also think there's going to be and there have been some growing pains. I do question, you know, the Marcus Satterfeld hire. I do question Jeff Sims, and if we would have really been better with Casey Thompson. And it's easy to say that we would have been better with Casey, but I think he's also playing to a lower level of competition, so it's tough to judge. All I know is that they better win next week, or else this season could really take a turn for the worse. And you know, quite frankly, I think next
If
week is one of the easier games, or not. Well, the easiest game out of the three that we played so far on the schedule.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not going to be a cakewalk. I mean, I think they're a 10 or 12 point. But yeah, if Nebraska loses to Northern Illinois, Matt Rule should just quit, honestly. He should quit, move his family out of the state and just never coach football. And I'm being 100% serious because like this just I mean, I just they have to win this game, but through and sitting up there watching Matt Rule on Saturday did not give me any, just we'll get it fixed, we'll get it fixed. Well, you haven't done it. You had the same problems last week and it got worse. So how, like, I just have no confidence that he's going to fix Jeff Sims. I mean, so we'll see. It's a tough situation, but it's you can't win if you don't have a quarterback. And I mean, they spent, and you know what? Like they spent all offseason talking about how Jeff Sims was basically a superstar and all this stuff. So I don't feel bad throwing this criticism right in their face because they're the ones that, told Casey Thompson to leave. They're the ones that built up Jeff Sims and said he was going to be great. And, I mean, Matt Rule, I don't know how many times he talked up Jeff Sims about how, he was this great quarterback and how he watched him and could do all this stuff. Well, I watched him on Saturday, and he could not even catch a snap. And frankly, there's a lot of, I think a lot of Husker columnists have pointed out, like Amy Just wrote a column about it, with Anthony Grant didn't receive a carry, so he has this accountability for running backs, but no accountability for the quarterback because I mean, he dropped the snaps and then the interception was as bad an interception as you'll ever see in college football. I mean, just straight double coverage. It was weird with the Satterfield because, he ran for the touchdown in the second half and, hardly ran the ball at all in the first half with Jeff Sims. And to me, I think Jeff Sims they should run the ball with him 20 times a game and just run his ass until he gets hurt and can't play anymore because he cannot throw the football. He can't. He
No,
cannot throw the football. They need to go full triple option. Like this team needs to throw the football as little as possible because he cannot be frankly, I mean, on Saturday he couldn't even be trusted to catch the snap. Like I am that I am just I hope that I'm wrong. I hope he comes out and plays great, and he probably will look awesome against Northern Illinois and Louisiana Tech. But like I don't even know what you do in this situation. Like this is as bad of a quarterback situation I think as there is in the country, in the entire country right now. After 2 games, Nebraska's quarterback situation has to be the worst. And just out of, I mean, how many other teams are dropping like 3 snaps in a game? I mean, come on. So I don't know how you recover from that. Hopefully, these guys can get it figured out. But right now, it's hard to have hope in this team. I mean, yeah, I know the next 2 weeks are winnable games, but you look at that Big Ten schedule and I know Illinois doesn't look great, but there's no team in the Big Ten that you can just hand the ball over and turn the ball over against and win. I don't even Northwestern. So yeah, it's ugly right now.
the reason why you have the ability to bench Anthony Grant and not Jeff Sims is because you have two other good running backs that you can rely on beyond Jeff Sims. And I know this is crazy to say, there isn't a ton of proven experience depth at quarterback like there is at running back. And I think that's why you can bench Anthony Grant and not Jeff Sims. But, I do think it would be worth, maybe considering the other options at quarterback. I mean, I understand, I think why you're benching Anthony Grant but not Jeff Sims. It doesn't put Nebraska in an easy position, but I think it also, can allow, I think you definitely need to take a look at the depth that you have at quarterback. And honestly, the depth at quarterback in terms of experience and consistency and reliability is not good in comparison to what they have at running back. I mean, running back is probably the deepest position that they have on offense right now.
And that's why I put all this on. This is 100% on Matt Rule. Like you told Casey Thompson to leave, so you literally knew like you had all offseason and there's a million quarterbacks in the transfer portal. Like Ole Miss grabbed like 2 or 3. There's former starters. I mean, I can't remember who, but Chance Nolan, who started last year at Oregon State, is like a backup somewhere. So I mean, they could have went out and got more quarterbacks but it's like they didn't want poor Jeff Sims to have to go through quarterback competition. They wanted to hand him the job or something, and so they made a bunch of mistakes at the quarterback position, and hopefully things will get better moving forward. But I mean, Mike Farrell made a pretty good point that in the era of the transfer portal, If you don't have a quarterback, like it's your own coach's fault. And so there is nobody on this entire state of Nebraska who we can blame except for Matt Rule needs to look at himself in the mirror and say, I fucked this up. I made a horrible decision. How am I going to correct this? And I get what you're saying. And quarterback is different too, in terms of like taking him out and putting him in. But it just, to me, it's hard to sell that accountability to the rest of the roster when the guy that's losing you the game, you don't even think about taking him out. So I mean, I
That's
don't
a
know.
fair point. Yeah, no, that's a fair point, and I do think help is coming with Daniel Kalen, and I know that we've talked about before on and off air. Kalen can sit for a year while Jeff Sims plays in theory, and Kalen can develop. Well, I'm not in love with the idea of starting a freshman quarterback, but quite honestly, I do think he would probably, if Nebraska had him right now, I do think he would probably be a better option than Sims at the moment. So it will be interesting to see. You know, there was talk. I remember we talked earlier this year, like if Jeff Sims goes pro and has a good season, hypothetically, then Kalen slides in.
Yeah.
I don't think Jeff's going pro anytime soon. So I mean, we'll see what happens. I hate to look to next year, but there is help coming, and I'll be interested to see how that plays out for next year. Assuming that this year continues to go really poorly.
Yeah, it's tough, and I know I'm sounding really negative right now. There were some positive things that happened in the game. It wasn't all negatives. It's just it's hard to after everything, just it's just, and I understand some people are still. I'm not against Coach Rule. I support Coach Rule. I just don't have confidence in him anymore. Like after, like I fully believed he was going to do it. But that's the thing is I believed in Mike Riley and I believed in Scott Frost, and I'm already at the point where it's like you need to show me, okay? Like I put my faith in you, and you put an absolute just you embarrassed this program. What was on the field Saturday was an embarrassment. I'm sorry, but it was. You got 36-14. It wasn't even that close. Nebraska scored a garbage time touchdown. So really, our first team offense in 2 games has 17 points. That's embarrassing. It's embarrassing right now to be a Nebraska football fan. And so no, I don't have any faith in Matt Rule. I'm gonna
Only right now to be a Nebraska football fan.
yeah,
It's been embarrassing for like the last, I don't know,
5-12.
7
Yeah.
years. You're like, yeah, it's not just embarrassing right now. It's been embarrassing, and it's
Yeah.
just it's crazy. It's like the team just can't get out of its own way.
I mean, yeah, I can't remember who came up with a stat on Twitter. It wasn't mine, so I'll have to give him credit. But on the turnover, it might have been Mitch Sherman. But I think over like the last 5 years or 10 years or something, Nebraska's negative 105 in turnover differential. The
It
next
was
closest
Mitch. I remember seeing that. Yeah.
the next closest team is like negative 50. So I mean, just think about that. And so for Matt Rule to sit there and just to go out and get one of the most turnover prone quarterbacks in the transfer portal, and then to have him be one of the most turnover prone, yeah, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. That's who Jeff Sims is. And at any rate, Cameron Leonard had a great game. Had a couple of sacks. The running they rushed for over 200 yards, so there was some positives there, but a lot of it was chunk plays. This offensive line didn't go in there and own the line of scrimmage or whatever like we thought they were going to. That didn't happen.
Again, like when in the last 5 years have they owned the line of
Yeah,
scrimmage? It's the same stuff. And to that point, Donovan Raiola is not doing anything this year so far to keep his job. I mean, they look decent against Minnesota. From all accounts, they look serviceable against Colorado. But again, the line is not consistent, and honestly, the penalties on the offensive line are more annoying than anything else.
and there's a lot of pre-snap penalties, and then there was like stupid offside. It's just the penalties that Nebraska gets are really they're really killer ones. And they had an offside, I believe, that went to a first down, and then there was a 15-yard, which shouldn't have been called, but it was like
Yeah.
a push out of bounds on Travis Hunter, and the guy pushed him back, and they called it on Nebraska. So I mean, there was some weird, kind of stupid penalties, but it does get frustrating. And I do think that Tony White did a good job. He definitely had Shadur Sanders, confused in that first half and thinking, and he I mean, they held Colorado to basically 0 point. It was 0 points at the 4-minute mark until Jeff Sims fumbled at his own 20 and gave him a field goal. And then the very next possession threw an interception and they got a touchdown and the game was over. So, I mean, it's, like you can't recover from that type of stuff. And it was tough. Billy Kemp had a couple of nice plays. Thomas Fidone caught a touchdown on the last drive, which was his first catch. But, man, I definitely overestimated his impact this season. He's nowhere near at a point, I don't think, where he's going to be. He's still got a long ways to go. One catch in 2 games.
How
So
much of
yeah,
that is Sims and how much of that is Fedoni? Because once
well,
Sims locks onto a receiver, he's going there no matter what. That's the other thing. He doesn't go
that's
through his
true.
progressions really well either. And when he does go through his progressions, he looks straight at him. That's what happened in the Minnesota game. He looked straight at his receivers, and the defensive backs, were able to, read the play obviously because he's like looking like laser eyes right at him and make it and get an interception. So how much of that is Sims and how much of that is Fedoni?
I mean, that's true, and he does seem to throw to the right side of the field almost. It's like he doesn't want to throw to the left. I mean,
Yeah,
he does some, but
yeah.
yeah, it's not good. It's not good, and I understand. Yeah, Harburg doesn't, but even for Jeff Sims' sake, I mean, he did run in a touchdown in the second half, but I don't know. It's they got to figure something out. They have to figure out a way for Jeff Sims to completely forget about that Colorado game because man, he just looked like a guy that it definitely he's got physical talent, but the mental side of it, I mean, you're dropping snaps like there's something there that you're not, you weren't mentally prepared or weren't ready. I don't know, but exactly, but that's got to get fixed. So I don't know. Northern Illinois, we'll see Saturday night. I mean, this team has to respond. I mean, this really is a must-win game. I mean, especially if you want to talk about getting to a bowl game, you have to win these next 2 games because like I know there's a lot of winnable games on this schedule. Like I won't disagree with that, but there's not a lot of like outside of these non-comp. There's not a lot of games that I'm like, yeah, Nebraska's gonna win that game. I'm not even confident saying that about Northwestern right now. So I mean, Illinois, yeah, they did not look good this week. They got beat by Kansas, but it's like if you're -3 turnover differential, you ain't beating Illinois. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't know. I mean, I do feel like Nebraska still has a shot, but I also, like you said, the 2021 season, good defense, but can't get out of their way. And I just really hope this isn't another 3-9 type of deal because if that happens, I said this on Twitter, and I firmly like if Matt Rule does not get this team to a bowl game by next season, he needs to be fired.
This team loves to ruin my weekends without fail every single weekend in the fall.
They do.
They just love to ruin my weekends and ruin all the excitement I have for college football season. And then the other part is too, like I can watch a Nebraska game and then I can watch competent football. Like I was able to go to a party and ignore everybody and watch football game for a little bit. And I watched Texas and Alabama. And I'm like, wow, they're getting first downs. They're moving the ball down the field. They are running a competent offense. This is what it looks like. And then I'm stuck here. Thank goodness I didn't have power on Saturday, or else I would have smashed my TV in pieces. And I have to watch Jeff Sims fumble inside the 20-yard line and the offensive line completely get manhandled every single Saturday. And then I have to write about it. For those who read my stuff, thank you. I don't know why, but for those who do, you notice I don't write anything after a game. I need to let my emotions my emotions clear and my head to be on right in order to do so. But man, like this team loves to ruin my fall. Every single year I get excited, and every single year they just let me down.
See, I just get pissed and start writing. So
I
that's why
remember
that's why my post game reactions probably sometimes are a little fury, but I don't care. It's cathartic for me, I guess.
I've been on the receiving end of the hey, you want to do a post game message a couple of times. So I get what he's saying.
It's just, man, it's so, yeah,
Nope.
it's just
All
depressing.
right. See you
It's
Monday.
just, yeah, it's just depressing. Yeah, I walked my dog when I walked my dog in the fourth quarter. Seriously thought about mowing my lawn in the second. I was like, might as well do something productive with this time. It's just, yeah, you can't even, yeah, there's nothing enjoyable about that. It's one thing to have like a fun game and lose, like the last time we went to Colorado, it hurt to lose in overtime, but it will at least we had some fun plays. But that was just, yeah, when Jeff Sims threw the second interception, like I still had it on, I still watched it, but it just was like, I just never had any hope we were going to win, even after it got to be 13-7. And yeah, it's Coach Prime, you have to give him credit. I thought Colorado wasn't going to be that good, and they are. And the quarterback and the skill guys and all that stuff really matters. And they're figuring it out in the trenches, and you have to give him credit. You have to 100% give him credit because everybody doubted him. People were saying this was the worst roster in the Power Five, and he's got a team that looks like, I don't know,
Yeah.
man. They're playing Oregon and USC in 2 weeks, and I'm not saying that Colorado's going to win those games, but I would not be shocked. Like, I would not be shocked if they won one of those 2 games against Oregon or USC.
And I know people will say differently, but I believe that Sanders is a really good quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I think he does a good job of being able to read his progressions. He doesn't panic in the pocket. He has a very strong arm, and he can get the ball out quickly. So uh, I thought honestly he was a nepotism quarterback, which I guess he is, but he's more than just the coach's son. I think he is a really talented quarterback, and quite honestly, I think we'll see him in the NFL soon,
Yeah, I mean, if I'm looking at the quarterbacks that I've seen so far this
along with
year,
all their wide receivers. By the way, every
yeah, I
single wide
mean,
receiver will be able to get drafted, I think.
they've got some good ones there. But yeah, I mean, Caleb Williams obviously has been spectacular. I think JJ McCarthy's been great for Michigan. Bo
Drake
Nix,
May.
yeah, Drake May. I mean, Michael Penix. I mean, there's been a lot of really great players, but Shadir Sanders just, I mean, no interceptions through 2 games.
Hmm.
I mean, what, 7 touchdowns, almost 900 yards passing. He's completing a really high percentage of passes, really accurate, and he just doesn't. He makes good decisions. He's
Yeah.
he's smart with the football, and he made some really good throws. So yeah, he's. I would definitely take him in the first round. I think he's going to be a first round quarterback eventually.
And even when you're playing against it, it's fun to watch good football. I mean, you just
Yeah,
sit
you can
there.
appreciate it. You can definitely appreciate it.
Jimmy Horn Jr., Travis Hunter, like I wish Nebraska had some of those guys, man. I really do. I really, really do. And you can chalk it up to, as a kid, you always, see Deion Sanders highlights and hear about him, and now you get a chance to play for him. It's hard to recruit against that. And, I honestly think the talent will keep coming to Colorado because I think honestly what would have not endeared him to Nebraska fans was his swagger. And, older Nebraska fans like the kind of, by the books, boring personality type of coach. Dion doesn't have that, and he's fully embracing it. He loves it, and you can really tell it's rubbing off on his players. And hey, it's working right now.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and you have to look. I mean, he had the one thing that he had to feel confident in. I mean, he knew he had a good quarterback, right? Like wherever he went, he was taking his son, so he knew he had a good quarterback. And like that, people I think do underestimate FCS. FCS football is legitimate. Like there's guys on Sundays. There's almost every single roster has dudes from the FCS. Like we see him making plays all the time. So put some respect on that name. And I think that this is a reminder of that because Shadur Sanders tore up there, and he has not skipped a beat. So, people need to realize like FCS guys can play, anyway. But yeah, it's been impressive what he's done, and but you look at the quarterback position is so important. If Nebraska, had got a different quarterback than Jeff Sims, they might be. That was a winnable game still on Saturday, like 100%, because if you think about it, if Nebraska goes down those 2 drives that they ended up getting 0 points if they just kick 2 field goals, you know what I mean, and don't if Jeff Sims doesn't give away that other interception, I mean they're probably leading at halftime, and they get a touchdown in the second half. Like it would have been, they at least would have been in the game. I'm not saying that they would have won with Casey Thompson or another quarterback, but if you just don't have those turnovers, you would, because the defense really played well. They had a number of 3-and-outs. They did start to, I always I do get like, yeah, the defense wore down or whatever, but sometimes that's just how games work. Like sometimes you're on the field for a lot. So I mean, I still wish that they would have played better, in the set. Like I don't it was a 13-7 game and they, weren't able to get the ball back again for the offense. So I mean, whatever. The offense has to make some plays at some point. The defense at some point too needs to take the football away. I mean, we want to talk about Nebraska's offense has not has given the ball away a lot, while our defense has not. I mean, since the start of the Frost era, it has not taken the football away consistently at all, and so that's been another big problem. Is like at least I mean, Iowa's offense is freaking terrible, but their defense takes the ball away like 2 times per game, so it doesn't matter that much. So we need to have find some balance in some way.
And quickly, honestly, because you look at USC, UCLA coming up. We got Ohio State, I believe, what 2025 or 2024.
I think 2025. I think they're the one team we avoid in 2024, but I could be wrong.
Either way, we could be in trouble. We could be in
Yeah.
trouble and quickly. I mean, because even if Caleb Williams, goes to NFL, Lincoln Riley's, I believe they have another really good quarterback as a backup already. I don't remember his name, but
Yeah, Malachi Nelson. He's
there we
yeah,
go.
he's a 5-star, and then Dante
Yeah,
Moore, who's a freshman for UCLA, looks
yeah.
like an absolute like yeah. I don't know if
Oh
they
boy.
started him yesterday, but his first game he came off the bench basically and threw 3 touchdowns and he's incredible. So
Lovely. All right, this
yeah,
this is gonna be fun.
yeah,
But yeah, okay. So we're gonna need to make improvements and in a hurry because we'll get left behind by the rest of the big whatever. I hate saying Big Ten because it's not 10 anymore, but we're gonna get left behind quickly if things don't turn around.
yeah, definitely will. And I'm interested to see how things go with recruiting because it hasn't been a great start. I don't think there's a lot of there's Grant Bricks and Brandon Baker who I don't think Brandon Baker's coming
No.
here, especially after Texas beat. He's going
Yeah.
to Texas.
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? I
Yeah.
mean,
Why would you come to Nebraska? I mean, it looks like through 2 games, it looks like dog shit. I'm sorry, Matt Rule, but it does, and I'm sure he would agree with that. I mean, it does not. The first game was good. The second game was an embarrassment. It was 100%. It was as embarrassing as anything that's happened in the Scott Frost era. The first game, the way we lost, was as bad as anything that happened in the Scott
yeah.
Frost era. So it has not been. It has not been an improvement. There's been. I like Matt. A lot of the things Matt Rule's done. He seems like a great person, but so far I have not seen anything on the field that gives me any confidence that he's going to turn this thing around. So we'll see. I know it's harsh, but I'm just like I'm at rock bottom right now. So I want Matt Rule to win. I hope that Jeff Sims makes me look like a total moron. I hope he has like 7 straight 300-yard games with no turnovers. Like I love eating crow when it comes to Nebraska. I hope that Matt Rule is the best coach in the country. But through 2 games, like I do not feel confident, and so we'll see.
10 300 multiple 300-yard games with no turnovers. I want to be a bodybuilder, but I don't think that's going to happen either. But I mean, no, I was just watching the game on Saturday, and Texas just beat Alabama on national television with Matthew McConaughey on the sideline, and you're telling me you'd rather come to Nebraska than Texas right now? I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think so. It's like everything is just like crashing down for Nebraska right now, and I hope they can at least win on Saturday because if they don't, I might I might have to switch teams. No. I would never switch teams, but because my other
Seriously
local
consider
team,
it though.
Boston College, barely beat Holy Cross in Worcester, and that's embarrassing in its own right. But they did beat. Actually, did they? No, I don't even.
I think they lost their
They
first
lost
game.
in Northern Illinois. Yeah, Northern Illinois.
Yeah, to Northern Illinois. It's
So
all it's all coming full circle here, Danny. You can get some
so
revenge on Northern Illinois this week with Nebraska.
they're both bad. Both Boston College and Nebraska are bad right now. So I don't know. We'll see, but I'm not optimistic about Saturday, given that, given what we've seen over the first 2 games.
I'll just say this: it hasn't gone the way that I thought. So hopefully, like like prognosticating the rest of the season won't be very good. So hopefully, I just prove to not know much at all about anything, and they turn things around. I do think that they will get better. It can't get any worse, but we'll see. We didn't really get to Northern Illinois today, but we'll have another pregame podcast this week as long as both of our power doesn't
Yeah,
go
hopefully,
out.
fingers crossed.
And so yeah, we'll be back around. But make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button. We appreciate all your follows. Check us out at huskerbigred.com. We've got a lot of content about the Huskers right now, and we'll have a lot more analysis, some previews about Northern Illinois coming up this weekend. So make sure you check out our website, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and as always, get into the comments. And even though we're a little down on the Huskers, we're right there with them through the thick and thin, no matter what. So as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.